Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I am joined by Dr. Marianna Strongin. She is a licensed clinical psychologist, founder of Strongin Therapy, which I love. I love the play on words there. And she is the mental health expert at My Next Chapter. She has spent the last 15 years helping people recognize and understand unhealthy life patterns so they can move through transition with more clarity, confidence, and resilience. We love that. I'm really excited about this conversation because Mariana and I have been collaborating on My Next Chapter's brand new one-on-one premium coaching program, which is really a first of its kind. And it brings together, as you guys know, I've been talking about this expert legal, financial, and emotional support for people going through divorce, whether they're uncertain, going through the process, or rebuilding afterwards. So I could go on, but I will stop and I will turn it over and say, hi, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'm
It's
so
been already so nice to collaborate with you and now on the podcast as well.
exactly. Yeah, it's been really fun. Um, Okay. So first of all, I just want to, you are a child of divorce
I
yourself.
am. I am.
So I would love to hear how your personal experience has shaped the way you might help guide others through this process.
Absolutely. Well, being a child of divorce has also led me to just deciding to become a psychologist because
Uh,
so early in my life, I became so attuned to the feelings around me. Uh,
uh-huh.
I was hopeful to predict my future and control the feelings all around me. And I think that it kind of drove me into the field of psychology. So I'll tell you a
Interesting.
little bit about my experience
Hmm.
being a child of divorce. So I came to America from the former Soviet Union when I was 8 years, which was a tremendous change for our family. So we were in a new country. We didn't speak a word of English.
Wow.
And this put enormous pressure on my parents.
Yeah.
And so I had to watch my parents start all over. They went from having a career and friends and community to really having to start all over. And I think that whatever cracks that lived in their relationship, really kind of broke them in this really difficult transition. So as a
Sure.
kid, I was the new kid. I didn't speak English. I was already feeling a lot of shame. And then only a few years into being in America, my parents started to divorce.
Oh my gosh. That's so much. That's
It was
so much. My heart for like little you, right? And of course it put more strain on their marriage, right? Of course it did.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all of it's so stressful.
And as
Yeah.
adults now, we know what it takes to build and restart. And restarting for all of us psychologically is one of the hardest things to go through. We spend our
Hmm.
lives kind of building confidence, building competence, and to have to restart that at the age of, 40 something years old for my parents, that was a tremendously difficult. So they ended up getting divorced. And because we were new to the country, we really had no resources. We had no community to back us up. And so the way that I navigated that was through tremendous shame. So I kind of buried it,
Hmm.
pretended nothing was happening, confided in very few people about it. And whatever conversations led to where are your parents or anything that had parents attached to it, I would move conversations. And I found
Mm.
myself doing it even in adulthood because
Mm.
the shame was so strong.
Interesting.
And so when I was going through it, one of the things that I noticed was how attuned I became to my parents and their feelings. And now looking back, I think what I really wanted was not for the outcome to change, but for them to have been really communicative and
Mm.
sturdy. So it would have been okay if they said, this is really hard. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where we're going to live, but we're all going to be okay. But
Mm.
instead, it was kind of buried and under-communicated, which left me to really be the translator of emotions from a very young age. And I was smart enough to kind of use that passion and interest and strength from a young age and go into the field. So I knew in high school that I was going to be a psychologist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. That's amazing. Yeah, it's so interesting because one of the things that I talk to my clients about a lot, and I'm sure you do too, is that, when we are living in these like especially in the in between of divorce where we've made the decision but we haven't told the kids yet, but like there's stuff happening in the house and the kids are kind of picking up on it, but you're not naming it. That is where the damage is done. It's not in the telling of what's happening, it's in the not naming what they already know.
You are saying exactly what I tell all of my patients. I
Hmm.
reiterate, anxiety is formed when we are interpreting,
Right.
right? If somebody
100%. Hmm.
tells us what the weather is, we do not have to interpret what to do, right? And so when
Right.
kids are interpreting their environment, they're working extra hard to be attuned to too many different things, and that's when their bodies start to react.
Yes, absolutely. And that when nobody's naming the thing that they're clearly seeing, then they start to doubt their own perception of reality, and that's gaslighting. And nobody wants to gaslight their kids, and no one is intending to gaslight their kids. They're just trying to hide things from them so that they don't have to feel the impact of it. But what they don't recognize is that the alternative is actually the impact of the alternative can actually be far worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm,
And, we're all building our gut instincts. Like we're all building these lived experiences. And so as parents, we really want to name them so that they only get sturdier and more confident in their interpretation of the world. So when we
right.
don't tell them, they're actually doubting their own inner voice, which, as you and I both know, in adulthood is so important in all the decisions we make.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, right? Because it teaches you that like, oh, look, your instincts are right. You're right. There is something weird going on or there is a change happening. Right? And oh my God, what a different life I would have lived if I had had access to trusting my own
Right?
experience of the world, right? I'm sure you feel the same way. Like,
Yes. Yes.
I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and so like we were not having these conversations. So life was just like,
Emotions were not discussed.
no, no. And my mom was like a hippie and she was talking about things that other people weren't talking about. Like she was naming body parts correctly. She was, all of these things. But the emotional stuff was just never, no, no. Um, another thing, when another thing like the healing process for I'm sure for you, right? It's all very well and good to be like, and then I decided to be a psychologist. But obviously there was a lot of healing that you had to go through in the
Yes.
process, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it's never linear. It's always layered. It's
Absolutely.
always like, you know, circular or whatever, right? It's a messy pattern. And there is this like untangling that
Yes.
has to happen and it can take years. What was your experience with that as
I'm still working on it. It's a complete work in progress.
you're not
You're not
cured?
you're
What's
not
what?
done. You're never done. As a psychologist, we actually have to work extra hard to really work through a lot of these things. And we all remain in therapy and do that kind of work and supervision and things like that. But for me, I would say as I started to kind of gain a little confidence and start to do the work, I really did it through my friends. I
Hmm.
really did it through community building. So I started to rely on my friends and started to air some of my shame to them and started to rely on them. And I think that that's also where the work really started to go through. And once I started to air the shame, I started to feel confident because I was no longer burdened and so weighed down by the shame. I started to take on other people's feelings, but in a positive way, like not in a way where I had to change it or take care of it or control it, but just kind of take it on and be a place of support. And that felt really gratifying. And then when I went to grad school and I started to do the work in myself, because when you're in grad school, you have to go through a lot of analysis and sitting a lot on the couch. And so I had to relive my childhood. Um, and then I started to show up for my patients who were going through divorce and going through very similar trauma. That was really healing.
Mm, mm. There's something, there's a saying in 12-step rooms, right? That you're only as sick as your secrets. And
Yes.
that which is sort of that unburdening of the shame that you're pointing to, that when we share, and we've all had that experience where we sort of say something that's so secret, or we feel is so like shameful to us, and everyone else goes, "Oh my God, totally me too."
Yes. Yes.
Right?
So the opposite of shame is connection. And so I always tell my
Yeah.
patients, like, let the shame have some oxygen.
Hmm.
The second it's exposed to oxygen, it turns into connection. And that's
Hmm.
exactly what happened. And that's exactly where confidence was built and actually created room to then care for others. And then obviously a lot of the work happened when I became a mother myself.
Hmm. Yeah, right. Girl.
Yeah. And I'm still very much working on that because I have teenagers.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh God, yeah. Mine is 20 and I'm still working on it. So, what are you gonna do? Um, I want to talk a little bit about the being stuck, right? The should I stay, should I go? Um, it's so painful to be in that stuck place. And I think it's so layered, right? But, you are, to sort of distill it down to something very sort of trite, is that you're stuck in this, like, the devil or this complete unknown. What I often find with my clients is that they get to the point of questioning, should I stay or should I go?
Yes.
When they have grown beyond the marriage as it exists, right?
Okay.
Or beyond the relationship, beyond their partner, whatever it is. But there is something in them that has grown to a point where they cannot live that life anymore.
Yes.
But they don't know grown part, this grown person well enough to trust
Yeah.
the moving forward, right?
Mhm.
Do you find that, is that like,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's
Absolutely.
it's like the most terrifying place, right? I think it's the hardest part of the whole process,
Yes.
is
Yes.
like, I can't go back, but I don't trust myself to go forward.
And the forward is so unknown and so
Totally
unfamiliar.
unknown.
It's
Right.
very
Yeah.
scary.
Yep.
Absolutely. I see that all the time. And as a therapist, what I try to do is I try to name it for them. I try to kind
Mm.
of name where they are in the journey. So I always say, one of the first things I notice are people can be really avoidant, right? And so when I
Hmm.
think about avoidance, I ask them, what do you think is under that avoidance? And often it's fear, right?
Hmm.
Then we kind of sit with the emotion. We talk about the emotion. I'm really careful that I say to them, let's just stay in the emotion and remove the behavior because people are often
Hmm.
afraid of the behavior. If I feel uninterested, what does that actually mean I need to do? No, no, no. We're going to take the behavior away. Let's talk about
Mm.
just feeling and process the feeling.
Yes.
So we talk about the feelings, and that takes a while.
A long time. Hmm.
As they're doing that, I'm already noticing the change. I'm already noticing the movement because we've removed the responsibility of the behavior. And
Yes.
then we kind of begin to label the movement in the shift. And also I'll say, I'm noticing you're less ambivalent. Oh, what do you mean by that? Okay. Well, you were at the 0 point on the axis line, and I'm noticing you're more on the one, and I'll kind of
Hmm.
like show them. And they'll validate that. They'll say, yeah, that feels like that, but I'm still not ready to do anything with that. And so we continue to kind of name it and label it because, again, as a therapist, as a coach, we're not fortune tellers. So
Mm.
we have to help people see what they might not be seeing, but we can't push in that
Right.
way because we
Yeah.
don't know. We also don't know what people can withstand in their lives. And so
That's
I
right.
like to watch them move themselves and I kind of label it for them.
Yes. I love that. I love that. I will often say to my clients, we don't have to worry about, I think it's similar to what you're saying. We don't have to worry about the what. We're just, or the how, right?
That's right.
We're not going to worry about what we're going to do with this information. We're not making
Right.
a plan with this information, but let's explore what's
Yes.
happening here.
Yes.
Let's leave the how, like it doesn't matter,
Yes.
right? Because they get stuck in like, but what about my kids and where am I going to live and how will I have enough money and blah blah blah. We're not going to think about that. We're just
Exactly. And that's how we neglect our feelings and we keep putting it
hmm
away, until it becomes like this cancer that grows inside of us, right? So that's why
yes.
we have to look at it. We have to let it out. We have to examine it. The work that we need to do about it, the behavior, we'll tackle it when we're ready.
That's right. That's right. And often once we get them more rooted in what's happening, how they feel, who they are, and all of that, all of those answers just become so much clearer to them or easier to manage. Or if they're hard, they know they can do it.
You're so right. And once we do the emotional work, the values start to become really clear, and the values help move things.
Yes. Yeah. I do so much values work with my clients too
Me
because
too.
they're so clarifying.
They
It's so
are.
clarifying,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It clears it all up.
100%. I always tell the story of I had a client once who, was working with me as a coach. She had a therapist. She was like, always reading personal development books and listening to podcasts. And at one point, her husband, she wanted to go to therapy with him really badly. And he was like, I don't believe in therapy. That's all hogwash. You knew who I was when you married me 20 years ago. I haven't changed in 20 years. And I was like, look, take all of the judgment out of it. You value development and growth and change, and this man doesn't, and that's a misalignment,
Right.
right?
Right.
Just despite the fact that that is no way to be in a marriage, like we're gonna not, like just doesn't the values don't align.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
so simple when you put it in those terms.
they're right. It's so clarifying. It's like, oh yeah,
Right.
this is not a person who's going to join me on this journey. Okay,
That's
well, and that doesn't mean you have to leave him,
no.
but now he's not joining you on that journey. And
Right.
what are you going to do with that information?
Exactly.
Yeah. Um, so there's a lot of I think you work a lot, I think, with mindfulness and helping clients. And what does that work look like for you and your work?
Yeah. I know there's like so much out there about mindfulness. It's such a
Right.
big
Yeah.
topic. Here's how I distill it. When we're focused on the future, we're having anxiety.
hmm
When we're focused on the past and we're ruminative, we're more likely to be depressed.
hmm
But when we're focused on the here and now, we're more likely to have joy and trust. And that's
hmm
how I think about mindfulness is how can we put all of our attention into where we are today and learn to work with that? Because if we really try to predict the future or jump ahead, that's really anxiety provoking.
Sure. Absolutely.
So the way that I think about mindfulness is really about having practices that orient you to the here and now and creating a self-talk that constantly says, I'll figure that out when I get there. Let me think about here and now. This feels hard. Let me take it one step at a time. Let me figure this out. It's really a coping strategy to be in the here and now. And mindfulness looks really different for everybody. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not one to tell somebody how to be more mindful because I think you kind of have to find it in your own way,
Mm,
as long as the focus is on today.
mm. So if you don't sort of prescribe practices, which I very much appreciate because everyone is so different, um, how do you guide someone whose brain just doesn't work, like has not had that
Yeah,
experience, right? And their neural pathways are not set up for that.
right.
How do you help when they're like, what are you talking about? Right? When they
That
look at you
happens
and they're
all the
like,
time.
right, yeah. So how do you take them to finding their own practice?
That's right. So I do the work in the practice with my patients in the room. So one of
Right.
the things
hmm
that I ask when people come in is I say, what are you thinking about? Because I think what we think about is then what we feel, and what we feel is then how we behave. So let's
Hmm.
start with the granular. What are we thinking about? And then I kind of summarize to them the way in which they're thinking. Are you fortune telling? Are you catastrophizing? Are you focused on, trying to control something that you never can control? And then we kind of figure out ways to think differently, to think more holistically, right? Which is really to be focused again on more here and now. What can I do? What am I feeling? What is that telling me? And not focus so much on trying to control the things that they can't control, which is the future and the past.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I tweak
Yeah.
it right as they're talking. I'm like, wait, 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 let's stop right there. What do you mean by
Yeah.
that? So it's like a constant, like I'm editing, and I call myself a thought partner because I feel like if I can help them edit their thoughts, I'm really
Hmm.
helping them edit their feelings, which
Mm,
are
yeah.
overwhelming.
And then you're like a personal trainer, right? For like you're you're building those neural pathways with them because they're going to automatically start future faking and you're going
Yes,
to go, no, no, that's the future. Where are you? What do we know? Right? What do
yes,
we know? What do we
that's right.
know now in this moment?
That's right.
Yeah.
I just had a patient earlier today who had like one of the worst days at work, she was telling me, and it was a pretty bad day for her. And she said, I kept having you in my mind, like today is just a bad day. I have a big job and I was meant to have one really bad day. Here it is. What can I control? What can I not control? Tomorrow it'll be better. And that was her really being mindful.
Mm, yes. That's great. I love it when they come to us and they're like, I had you in my head all
I
day.
know.
You're like,
It feels so
yes.
good. It's like the most rewarding.
It really is. It's so good. Um, I want to talk a little bit about this platform that we
Absolutely.
are working on together. So, um, h- how are you, we've been working as my audience knows, because we've talked about it a bit, on my next chapter. And it is this wonderful platform that has a very robust free content on that has a lot of content from Mariana and from legal experts and
Financial.
financial, all about divorce. And tell me about the content that you have on there and what you're providing
Absolutely.
for it. Yeah.
It's so exciting. I mean, the name is so perfect because we
Hmm.
use it in even in when we're talking in your next chapter, it just it
Yeah.
kind of flows in that way.
Yeah.
So when I first started working with my next chapter, we were really intentional. We all kind of came together, all the experts, legal, financial, mental health, and we wanted it to be evidence-based. So I
Hmm.
I use all of the training I've had in CBT and DBT and relational therapy. I threw all of that in there. And then we collaborated with legal and financial. And so what's really unique about, I think, the content that's different than anything you're going to get anywhere else is that we all collaborated as experts when we are handing this information. And as you know, divorce is so interwoven. You do need legal, you do need financial, you do need mental health. And so it's all expert led and weaved into one another. So we not only do we have videos, but we have worksheets. We also we literally give scripts in how to talk to your children about the
Mm.
various stages of divorce. And then we broke down the scripts into the ages of the kids. So we really, spent a lot of time figuring out and making this process more connected. And my favorite part about the platform really is the community page.
Hmm.
Because the community page, I think that going through divorce is one of the most isolating experiences because, in so many different transitions, you're told not to tell anyone or to tell this person before this person and to protect your financial and legal rights, you need to stay quiet here. And so the community page, I think, is so huge because every user is somewhat, they're all anonymous and they can use one another for help in the various stages. And we, as the experts, can also chime in whenever we need to.
Yeah. Yes. And there's right. So there's the community aspect and there's all of that. And all of that is free. And
Exactly.
then
And now
there
we've added something else.
now we've added something else. You want to talk about what we have added?
That's right. And that's with the
Yeah.
help of, of your guidance. And, so now we're going to add actual coaching, which, you so, bravely provided all of us and the
Mm,
coaches that we have. So now we're all coached in helping people in the various stages. And,
mhm.
it's one thing to go on the platform and utilize everything, but now there's a little bit more hand holding in it. And we
Yeah.
learned as we were doing this work that when people are in their transitional stages, somewhere, in that ambivalent, maybe avoidance stage or just trying to gather info, they do need a little more hand holding. And that's what the coaching is there for.
Yeah. And that's a really, I think it's a really, I find that too, right? There's so much content, but at a certain point, when it's your, I don't know about you, but I felt like this. I have always been like this. Read a book on like sleep training,
Right.
but like I need to talk to an expert because I need them to like weigh in on my baby, right?
Exactly. Because we're all individuals. Like it's not one
Right.
size fits all.
Right, exactly. Right. I need to hear, you need to, I feel like my situation is unique and different, right? And very often, by the way, it's not.
It's not.
But, but I will say with divorces, they are. They really can be because there are just so many moving pieces all the time.
Yes.
And so having people to be able to speak with a legal expert who's not costing you $750 an hour.
Right.
It's pretty fucking great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all in one kind of, so,
All
because
that's right.
you're
Hmm.
talking about legal, you're really a lot of times talking about financial. And when you're talking about custody, you're talking about mental health. And so to have that all together, and, we all collaborate, we all work well together, we all kind of love hanging out together, which is
Right.
kind of unique and fun.
Yeah.
I think that there's something, really special here, in bringing all the experts together.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I think it's really great. And I've loved collaborating with you. I love because I think there is I think the sweetest spot is a collaboration between mental health and coaching, therapy and coaching, right?
Yes.
I want all of my clients in therapy,
Yes.
right? And because we do different things and we hold different aspects of the mental health aspect of divorce, and so it's been great getting
And
to.
it actually, it came together so beautifully. Like when we all sat down together and figured
Mhm.
out how we were going to collaborate on that, it was really quite simple.
Exactly. Well, you know, and knowing each other's lanes is helpful, right?
Exactly.
As a coach, I'm really clear on my lane. And I think that's often that can get a little fuzzy, which is one of the more important aspects of the coaching that we implemented, right?
Exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly.
really important. So, one of the things I want to say about that is that, the paid version where you get one-on-one coaching is $99 a month. If you think about the $750 an hour that you're paying your attorney or upwards, the amount that you're paying your therapist or your coach and your financial person, like no, you're not going to get maybe as much, but boy, are you going to get a lot for $99.
Yeah.
So, highly recommend. We both highly recommend. All right. So, that's the commercial aspect of this episode. And now we're going to go back to our content. So, let's talk about co-parenting. We
Oh,
sort of touched on that.
yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? It can be really hard, especially when one parent is, quote, high conflict.
Yes.
Well, I like to identify usually as it is one parent who's high conflict, but I mean, sure, sometimes there's there's conflict
That's
on both
right.
sides, but right, we react to somebody being an asshole to us in a way that is maybe not helpful to the
Yeah.
situation,
Yeah.
right? Um, so how do you work with co-parent? I mean, you do this work as a co-parent specialist. So how do you work with co-parents?
So again, we have to come back to our values. And
Mm-hmm.
even in when we were writing the content for my next chapter and thinking about co-parenting and high conflict divorce, we really distilled it down to one value. And that value is the well-being of our children comes first.
Yes.
And every decision that we make, both small and large, should be informed by that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I do this work, regardless if it's the person who's causing the conflict or not, I really kind of reiterate, okay, so we're talking about your child and their well-being. What do you think this will do? Right? What do you think this email might generate for them while they're at school or wherever they might be? I mean, just today we I had somebody in who really deeply wanted to make their daughter have dinner with their new girlfriend. I had a parent who said she has to come to dinner. She is being so stubborn. She needs to be able to come and have dinner. And I said, okay, let's figure this out. What's the rush? Why does it have to happen this week? What is it about this week? And then he was able to say, well, it works best for my schedule. Okay. So then we were able to say, okay, that's not a great value because the value is her right now and what would be best for her. She had 3 tests this week, and that felt like a lot of pressure to put on her.
Mm-hmm.
Then he said, well, this relationship is getting really serious and it's really meaningful for me. And so I really need her to meet this person. I said, you said a lot of me, right? And so let's go back to that. What would
Yeah.
that be like for your daughter? And so again, like they're already past the divorce stage, but that high conflict, that, need for control is still there. And so we are all working through that, the entire system. I like to call families systems, and,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to operate together. But if we are valuing the child's well-being, I mean, she's already almost out of the house. Doesn't matter. It becomes
Mm-hmm.
very clear what might be best.
100%. 100%. Not all parents
Yes,
have
yes,
you in their corner or me in their corner to guide those things, right? And so you've got a parent who is, if let's say this parent that you're talking about,
yes,
who is having this conversation with their ex and their child,
yes.
and they are not rooted, like
They're not
very
really.
often that value is like that's not what they're about. They're about what I want,
Right,
right?
right.
Um, and so if you were just working with her, this person's ex
Yes.
or the child,
Yeah.
how do you how do you recommend they deal with that?
Well, first of all, we have to kind of soothe ourselves because even I was, activated on this call.
I bet you were. You're like,
So you kind of have to regulate yourself first. You really have to take care of yourself because once you're triggered, it's kind of too late. Then that's
yeah.
it. You've lost control. So I always
Mhm.
say we first really take care of ourselves first. We take a deep breath. We say that, this is temporary. I know this feeling. I know what to do with this feeling. And then we say, what can I control? What can I not control? Right?
Mhm.
You cannot control other people,
Mm,
right?
mhm. Yep.
And so the second I've placed that on, I know that the one thing I can control is that I can provide my child the values that I hold, and I can document things and I
Mhm.
can place that power elsewhere, but it's not going to be by answering back, by igniting the flame, by trying to control, by trying to teach. None of that's going to work.
Yeah.
It really
Right.
comes down to back to ourselves.
Yeah. And then we also, I think, as parents, I will
Yeah.
give as parents, but as mothers, I think in particular, or maybe that's just my experience because I'm a mother and I work with women, but whatever, we want to protect our kid in that scenario.
Yes, I know.
Like it's one thing to be like, you can't control him, but it's like I want to protect my kid.
I know. I know. And I think that's really the hardest part, is
Hmm.
that we really want to be the barrier.
That's right.
We can't always do that. And I think in an effort to try to do that, we can sometimes create more friction for the child.
Hmm.
So I'll
Hmm.
tell you one thing. Studies have found that to be a well-adjusted, highly attuned child and then adult, you only need one steady, stable, attaching relationship. That's it.
One, guys.
One.
I say it all the time. Here it is, backed up by more science. Yep,
Yep.
just
And
one.
in an effort to try to get your second, we actually create more problems. So when we try to get the other
Yes.
co-parent to align with us, when we try to get them to see our way, we actually might be creating the very conflict that I said earlier in the podcast that I felt as a child, right?
Yes, that's right. Hmm.
And so
That's right.
letting that go, although hard and sometimes impossible, is actually best.
Yep. Yep. And what I tell my clients in these situations, and tell me if you agree or disagree, is that really the only thing you can do is teach your children how to have a voice. And
Exactly.
that, right? So we empower them to be able to say, Daddy, I'm not ready. I don't feel comfortable.
That's right.
Um, you know, and that teaches them how to build confidence,
That's
build, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it can start at a young age. We had somebody in our practice who was complaining, was a young girl who was just starting to live at both mom's house and dad's house, and came back to mom's house and said something like, I can't sleep at dad's house. The mattress is really uncomfortable. I don't like it and I don't know what to do. And the mom, filled with all kinds of emotions, including guilt for putting her
Guilt.
through
Yes.
it,
Yeah.
quickly was about to go and start, shooting texts of like, you need to get a new mattress and you need to get a new bedding and blah, 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 blah. And then she stopped herself and she said to the daughter, well, what would you like to do about that? And the daughter said, well, if I tell daddy, he's going to feel badly. And she said, why don't you try?
Hmm.
She came back next time, so excited. Daddy and I went shopping for a new mattress. We picked out a new bedding and she was empowered.
That's right. That's right. And she built connection with her father,
Yes. Yes.
right? Yep. Yep. I love it. I
And so
love that
often
story.
kids who go through divorce are afraid to burden their parents emotionally.
Mhm.
Because as they watch them navigate these difficult moments, they take them on, just like I did as a kid. And so they are the kids who are more likely to withhold and hold their requests and their emotions because they don't want to burden. And that's exactly what this child did very early, very uncomfortable. I don't want to burden him. I don't want to
That's right.
upset him.
That's right.
But it's really important to have relationships with people where you can be your authentic self and tell them what you need and want and not bury that. And the earlier we learn that, the healthier we're going to be as adults.
Absolutely. Good God, if I had learned that as a child, right?
Me too.
Because, oh my God, I total sidebar, but also like an important, I think, example of this is when I was so conditioned to be worried about everybody else's feelings before my own. I didn't even know what my own were. And I was 8 years old and I was in the playground and uh, a man came up to me, a stranger, middle-aged man, um, and it through a series of events, obviously, ended up molesting me in the park. And the reason it happened was because he asked me to. He's like, "Come over here," and I knew every fiber of my being was like danger, 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 and I didn't want to hurt his feelings.
Wow.
And now I am not saying I am responsible
I know.
for a
But
strange man in the park.
you
I
remember
know
how you
that
thought about it.
100%. I remember the feeling of
Mhm.
I don't want to hurt his feelings, or I have to be polite,
Good
right?
girl.
Meanwhile, that That exactly. That man walked up onto the rocks in that playground, and all the other girls scattered. They all scattered, and I was the only one left.
Mm, I'm
And
so
again,
sorry.
I don't thank you. It's, I don't blame myself for it, but
Now.
that I'm very clear now exactly how that ended up happening,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Absolutely. As kids, I say this to my adult patients, as kids, we are more likely to say ouch. It sounds like
Hmm.
you were not yet, you were already not saying ouch at a very young age, but a lot of kids are like, ouch, and that hurts. But as adults, what's really fascinating is I was walking down the street the other day and somebody ran right into me and it hurt. And I
Yeah.
didn't say ouch. I said,
No.
I'm sorry,
Right.
right? It's like
Yeah.
the instinct. And I teach my patients, I was shocked that even I did it, to constantly have ouch moments, right? Both emotionally and physically, like let it out, let yourself acknowledge the ouch without the consequence of what other people might think and feel.
Hmm. Right.
So you at 8 years old were already withholding your ouch.
Hmm. Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Because I knew, like, the alarm, I knew this was not right. But I also knew that, like, well, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to, right? And so, I mean, my point in telling that story is that it's really, it is beyond the importance of just the relationship with the co-parent.
Yes,
Teaching our children to express themselves and use their voice and honor their feelings and express them to a parent has wider consequences
absolutely.
that are
Absolutely.
really important. Yeah. So let's move on to the rebuilding, right?
Yeah.
Rebuilding after divorce, right? We divorce can kind of strip away all the things that you thought you knew.
Mhm.
And we talked about people in that should I stay or should I go period of sort of
Yes.
like they've grown into this person that they're not ready to become yet, but like okay, now they've become this new person
Yeah.
when they've gone through the process. How do you help women or people just sort of rebuild um, after this, traumatic and also empowering experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think about our lives in various stages, and I think those
Hmm.
stages look so different for people. We're never just constant. We're kind of always moving towards. But there's something really beautiful when you enter this next stage where I think we have to build on anticipation. And so for the first time, I encourage both women and men in this stage to really hone in on their wants. I think like early in our lives, in our 20s and our 30s, we so are focused on acquiring and building and doing the things that we think are right. And I think
Hmm.
when somebody goes through something like a divorce, which takes time to go through, the beautiful part about it is that they come to a place where they get to really ask themselves, now what do I want? That's so beautiful. I mean, when do we ever get a chance to really say that? When we say that to ourselves in our 20s and early 30s, we're too afraid to really ask ourselves those things.
Or we don't know yet, right? Because we don't know who we are yet. We haven't figured out our values and like all of those things yet. Yeah, right.
Exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. And so, I kind of start small, when people are just going through it and, find themselves, living by themselves for the first time or with their kids. I start small, I ask them, what are some of the small wants? What are the cravings? What are the new routines? And then we kind of build from that. And that's really empowering is to be able to say, I want, and then follow through on that. And it's one of the best parts of being a therapist is watching people evolve into that.
100%. I agree with you 100%. I love even the little things like, okay, so what flavor ice cream do you like?
Right.
What do I want for dinner? Like intentionally asking,
Yes.
like, well, we always had this for dinner. Do wait, do I want that? Do I like that?
Yes. Yes.
Right? Like, oh, maybe I don't. Right? Oh shit, I don't like meatloaf at all.
That's right.
Yeah. And
I mean,
it's
it's
like,
scary. It's scary to
it's
build
scary.
new, right?
Mm,
But I like to think about it from the framework of anticipating. So I often will talk
mm,
about how we oftentimes do get what we want. But once we get there, it presents us with a whole new set of problems, right? And
right.
so
Sure.
but when we're anticipating something, that's the best part because that's more fantasy filled, right? We can
Mm,
assign all kinds of positive emotions to it. It's like before going to a party and you think about
mhm,
what you're going to wear and who might be there and what it might feel like. But once you're there, you're on to kind of figuring out what to do there, right? And
mhm,
so
mhm.
in this stage, I talk to my patients about like, what are we going to anticipate? And maybe you don't know yet, but that's exciting too.
Yes. It's funny because we were talking about mindfulness earlier, I was thinking about because you said like being in the future is, anxiety producing. But the thing that I was thinking of was like, except for anticipation,
Yeah,
except for like, oh, I'm thinking about that vacation I'm going to go on in a few
that's right.
weeks,
That's
right?
right.
And like,
That's
that's going
right.
to be exciting. Or, right? That like, there's a difference. I just want
There
to
is
sort
a
of point
difference.
that out if someone's like, wait a minute, that's not what she was talking about before, right? Like, there's a difference between anticipation and anxiety.
It's different because when you're anticipating, you're very much aware where you are today, but you're
Mm,
kind of building a fantasy for the future. So you know that you're in Wednesday, but you're fantasizing about Friday. When we're anxious, we're asking ourselves questions about the
mhm.
future and not giving them any answers.
Oh, that's a great frame. I love that reframe of it. Right. All the questions, all the questions, all the questions with no answers,
Right.
as
So
opposed to
it's like
painting a picture. Yeah.
exactly. So the party on Friday, what's it going to be like? Who might be there? Will I be comfortable? Will I have fun? Anxiety. But party on Friday, what should I wear? That might be, I could wear that dress or I could maybe go try on something new. You're planning, you're anticipating, you're kind of
hmm
visualizing. Very different.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Mariana, this is so great. Thank you so much for being here. This has been such a great conversation.
Oh, I
And
could do this on and on with you. I mean,
I know, me too. Same girl. So let's where can everyone find you and follow along with
sure,
you and your work? Because it's
sure.
just so brilliant.
So, my practice is called Strongin Therapy. It's a private practice on the Upper East Side. I work there along with really talented clinicians who work with me, and we all work within the same framework. And my Instagram is strong underscore in underscore therapy or at Dr. Mariana Strongin. So I have two of them.
Okay, great. And of course, Mariana can also be found on my next chapter. And if you sign up, I have a code. I'm sure you have a code. I don't know. Mine is
I think there's the
DSG.
Kate Anthony code, right?
It's DSG. Yeah, we just
Okay.
changed it because we always use DSG for
Okay.
all of my codes, so it's just easier for my audience to remember. My code is DSG, and you can get your first month of the paid version for just $69, so it's 30% off. Super worth it. And the free version, you can watch all the videos. If you're like, Mariana's amazing and she's so smart, like I think, then you can go watch all those videos and really get a lot out of it there too.
We have so many.
So, so much content. I love
Yeah.
it. I love
Yes.
it. Mariana, thank you so much for being here. This has been such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.